And I think just, yes, I did a yoga class on Saturday with one of my teachers, and it was lovely. But I think it's just, you know, just making sure we are going to go at a slow pace, but making sure you drink water when you need to. And yeah, taking a little break if you need to. But certainly our focus is going to be on not getting ourselves overheated. So however you're lying, and choose to lie however is most comfortable, however you're lying on your back, just maybe have 2 or 3 big sighing breaths, and just let yourself settle and take a moment to notice how your body feels. So in this hot weather, our muscles can be more relaxed, which is lovely. So we may experience less tension, but there is that feeling of, you know, it can be very tiring. So yeah, just notice for a moment how you're feeling. So it's that sense of how is your body feeling? How is your breathing feeling? And also this sense of how are your energy levels? And so you can work in a way that helps you to feel good rather than wears you out or exhausts you. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to feel the weight of your head on the floor, and then start to let your head roll to the right and to the left. So feeling that you're easing out the back of your neck. And do this in a very sort of lazy, languid, lazy, languid, easy way. So letting the head roll a few more times to the right and to the left. And from doing this movement, find a place where you can settle the back of your head on the floor. In a place that feels comfortable, you can let the head be heavy. Notice how the back of your neck feels, and if it feels it would be helpful to lengthen out the back of your neck at all, you can then slide your hands around the back of your head, interlink your fingers and pick your head up and just gently lengthen out the back of your neck, and then place your head back onto the floor. And then just bring your arms back by your sides again. Let your arms be heavy on the floor by your sides. If your legs are long, you're now going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. So take a moment to feel the contact of your footprints on the floor, the back of your pelvis on the floor, and then just start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. So we're starting with some very familiar movements so that we can use these to help us get a sense of how our body is feeling in this very hot weather. So letting the knees tilt to the right and to the left. And so as you do this, notice how you feel around the back of the pelvis, into the lower back, into your hip joints. So this whole sort of lower part of the body, really from the waist down. And it might be that you feel these movements traveling slightly higher up, above your waist. So just whatever you feel. So perhaps 2 or 3 more times, let the knees tilt to the right and to the left. And then settling down in the center, keeping your knees bent. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Feel the contact of the back of your pelvis on the floor. And then you're going to start that little movement where you're tilting your pelvis now. So you're tipping your pelvis towards your head and away from your head. So you feel that in one orientation, so if you tip your pelvis towards your head, your lower back is going to flatten out its contact on the ground. And if you tip your pelvis away from your head, your lower back is going to arch off the ground a little bit. So see if you can find these movements. So not picking the pelvis all the way off the floor yet. It's more this rocking of the pelvis Yeah, tipping it one way, tipping it the other. So really what you're doing is changing how your lower back contacts the floor or doesn't contact the floor. So you're getting it to contact the floor more, and then you're feeling the lower back arch off the floor when you tip your pelvis away from you. So this movement is just really good for the lower back, for releasing tension there in a sort of a way that's not going too far. Now from here, you can do a little bit more if you like of this one, if it's feeling helpful for your lower back. From here, you are then going to go a bit further. And when you tilt your tailbone off the floor, you can then go on into bridge pose. So let your pelvis come off the ground. Let some of your spine come off the floor. So think about rolling up and down into bridge pose. So how can you make it a rolling movement? So you're placing your spine down on the floor, vertebrae by vertebrae. And as you pick your pelvis and spine up, you're trying to roll up vertebrae by vertebrae. So do that 2 or 3 times and try and feel this sort of rolling movement. It's perhaps harder to find as we go up. So yes, that's nice, good. Very nice. And staying very steady through the legs and the feet. That's it, good. Good. And just, you don't have to go too far at this point. So when I was doing this, I was doing some practice last night, but unbelievably, I was practicing from about 9:15 to just before 10, and it was too hot. I couldn't believe it. So when I was practicing last night, it felt a bit creaky to start with. So we're going to do a little bit of working with one leg pressing now, one foot pressing now, and then come back to bridge pose. So when your pelvis comes back onto the floor, keep your right knee bent and lengthen your left leg out on the floor. Good. So remember, you're going to do this movement where we press into the right foot and we let the pelvis tilt towards the left. So the right side of the pelvis comes off the floor. That's it. Very nice. Good. That's it. And then come back out of that. So keep repeating that movement a few times. So pressing into your right foot, letting your pelvis tilt to the left, and then stop pressing into that foot. Good. See how steady you can be in that standing foot, and think about sending your knee forwards over your foot. So you don't really want your knee to tilt. That's it. That's good. You don't really want your knee to tilt to the left, just the pelvis. Good. This is the right knee. The left knee can tilt to the left. Okay, the next time, do this once more like this. And then the next time your pelvis comes back on the floor, just stay there for a moment. Don't do anything to change your position with your legs. But you're going to then cross your arms over your chest with your right arm on top. That's it. So now, as you press into your right foot, you can also roll across your upper back. So you roll towards the back of the left shoulder. That's it. And your right fingertips reach out on the floor to the left. Good. That's it, Rashmi. Good. And then repeat that a few times. Good. So now the feeling is, as you press into your right foot, you're rolling towards the whole of the left side of the body. That's it. Good. Very nice. So we can feel that we're rolling across the upper back, maybe releasing some tension there. And we can feel perhaps this sense of lengthening or opening or releasing through the whole of the right side of the body, all the way from that right knee. So do that a couple more times with the arms crossed. Good. Perhaps make this the last time you do this one. And then uncross your arms, lengthen out that bent right leg, and just lie with both legs long and your arms on the floor beside you. Let your breath come in, let your breath leave you. Yes, if your lower back isn't particularly happy with your legs being long, you could try stretching into both heels for a moment. And that's quite nice to lengthen out the lower back. And of course, you can always bend both knees, but just see how it feels if you can bear, if you're okay there, to have maybe a couple more cycles of breath, just lying long on the floor. So feeling the length of yourself from the back of your head through to your heels, the back of your body supported by the ground. And then when you're ready, leave your right leg long and bend your left knee and stand your left foot on the floor. Take a moment to feel the left foot on the floor, to settle that foot down. Good. And then come to that pressing movement. So to start with, just let your arms rest on the floor beside you. Come to pressing into your left foot. Very nice, letting your pelvis tilt towards the right. And repeat this movement a few times. So pressing into that foot, make sure you're trying to stay really steady through your foot. You send your left knee forwards. That's it. The footprint, good. And do this 2 or 3 more times, just as you're doing it now. And then the next time your pelvis is on the floor, cross your arms over your chest with your left arm on top. And now add in this movement where as you press into your left foot, you're also rolling across your upper back. That's it. And you can sort of reach out on the floor over to the right with your left fingertips to help you roll a little bit further. And think about this movement being a way of massaging through the whole of the back of your body. That's it. So don't forget the pressing into the left foot. That's it. So that's where the movement starts, is with the pressing into the left foot, and then the movement travels up through the body and we roll across the upper back. We let our head roll to the right as well, as reaching those left fingertips out on the floor to the right. Good. So just once or twice more. And then once more, when you've finished, you can uncross your arms, lengthen out both legs for a moment. Just let the legs, you can either let the legs just be long, you could roll them or bounce your knees or stretch into your heels. Just, and again, have a moment or two of feeling yourself long on the ground. And then from here, whenever you want to, whenever you're ready, you're going to bend both knees, stand both feet on the floor, and come back to revisiting bridge pose. So sinking into both feet and that rolling up and down through the spine. So again, think about how can you make it a rolling movement rather than just this sort of up and down movement. How can we think about rolling the spine up and down? So we're placing each of the vertebrae down one by one. We're trying to pick the vertebrae up one by one. So again, 2 or 3 times rolling up and down through your spine. In and out of bridge pose. Just seeing how that feels after the other movements. And certainly for me, when I do those sort of one-footed movements and then come back to bridge pose, it all just feels a bit easier and a bit more free. A bit more possibility of rolling up and down and feeling comfortable. So if you want to do one more bridge pose, you can. Or if you've had enough, you can then fold your knees into your chest. That's it. So fold your knees into your chest and hold around, that's it, hold around the top of your knees. And just have a few breaths there, holding around the top of your knees. Yes, if you like, you can rock a little bit from side to side. And Nigel, don't feel you've got to stay there too long with your knees folded in towards your chest. You might then like to lengthen your legs out on the floor. Or you might want to do the next thing. What I was going to say is to take your arms and legs up towards the ceiling and maybe just sort of stay there. You can obviously shake your arms and legs out. You can also circle your ankles. But there's something quite really nice in this hot weather about taking the arms and legs up to the ceiling. If it isn't nice, then Nigel, do bring your feet down to the floor. So you could do that a couple of times. You could, in between, you could fold, when it gets too much, fold your knees back into your chest. And then you can take your arms and legs up towards the ceiling again. And yes, it can be quite nice. Yes, it's really nice to shake out, or it can be quite nice just to be quiet there. And what's it like to be on your back? And one of the things we call this position is gravity pose. So you're feeling the weight of your limbs sort of resting into, like the weight of the arms resting into the shoulder joint and the weight of the legs resting into the hip joint. Good. And then whenever you've had enough, just come back and bend, bring your feet to stand on the floor. So you've got your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. And then one last time, cross your arms over your chest. And then from here, you're going to start a little bit of rocking from side to side. So now let the knees and the elbows and the head all rock to the right and to the left. That's it. Good. Very nice. And see how it feels to be rocking side to side across the back of your body. So again, this is a movement that gives us this opportunity to give ourselves a bit of a massage across the back of our body, the back of the pelvis, the back of the rib cage. If we let our head roll from side to side, we're also easing out the back of the neck. Okay, and then in your own time, what we're going to do is roll onto, and you don't have to have your arms crossed for this. We're going to have a few breaths on each side. So from here, just roll onto one side and make yourself comfortable on your side. So you might want to put your bottom arm under the side of your head. If you have a cushion to hand, you could always slide a cushion under the back side of your head. And just lie on your side comfortably, which would be with your knees bent. So Rashmi, I'd probably bring your knees a bit higher up, a bit more up. Yeah, that's it, that's it. So just lie on your side. So as if you were maybe going to go to sleep here, but let's not go to sleep. And just have a few quiet breaths and see what's it like to settle on your side and feel the movement of the breath through your body. So when it's hot like this, it's an opportunity for us to focus in on our breathing a little bit more in these sort of quiet places. So you can have a couple more breaths on this side, and in your own time you can roll through your back and onto your other side and have maybe half a dozen or so cycles of breath on your other side. And so just see how it feels to settle on the second side. Again, you can have your arm under the side of your head, or if there's a cushion to hand, you could slide it under there. And just have a couple of breaths. Oh, well, yes, I said half a dozen or so, didn't I? So thereabouts, half, once you're there and settled, feeling the movement of your breath through your body. And more than ever in this warm weather, it's important to keep sort of checking in with how we're feeling. If we're starting to feel it's all a little bit too much, probably not lying on the back, but as we're going to be coming off our backs now. So what we're going to be doing from here is coming over onto hands and knees when you're ready, and you're going to be doing a couple of dog poses in your own time. So you don't need to race into dog pose, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a couple of dog poses and just sort of see how it feels. It might be that you're sort of raring to go. And yeah, so when you in your own time, hands and knees, when you're ready, tucking your toes under, rocking your hips back and then up. And just, you know, how does it feel to come into dog pose? Bending your knees as much as you like. It's just sort of, yes, how does that first dog pose feel? And remember, you're going to do 2 dog poses in your own time, so there's no rush. I'm just having a bit of a look at you. So that's it. Whenever you're ready, tucking your toes under, good. That's it. Rocking into dog pose, letting the head go. Just sort of, how does your body feel? Noticing what you feel in dog pose. So it could be the back of your legs feeling a bit tight. That's it. How does it feel to rest through your hands and your shoulders? Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And when you come back down between dog poses, because as I said, you're going to do a couple of dog poses, you could either be in kneeling for a moment, or you could be in up kneeling, or come into child pose for a minute. We're going to be a bit longer in child pose after the second dog. So it might be that you give your hands a little shake out. And then again, coming back into dog pose, seeing how a second dog pose feels. So toes tucked under, exhaling, rocking your hips up. And then back, coming into the second dog pose. Good. And having a few breaths in the second dog pose. So remember, again, in dog, you can have your knees as bent as you like. You can let your head go. Yes, if the hands are getting sweaty, that might be a chance that you come down. And good, just feeling your body opening out in dog. Good. And from this second dog pose, whenever you want to come down, just let yourself fold down into child pose and have a few quiet breaths in child pose and just see how it feels being in child pose. So let the elbows rest on the ground, let the foreheads rest on the ground. Oh, Linda, is that problematic for your problematic?
Like that, it's okay. I can almost get there, but then it's, if I put my weight on it, it hurts.
Yes, yes. Okay, well, you can always lie on your belly. That's the other option rather than, but we're not going to stay here that long anyway. Okay, all right. Good. So from child pose, we're going to come and into sitting. So come and sit and lean back onto your, I'm just going to stand up and see if I can get that's it, look a bit lighter. Yeah, come and sit down and lean back onto your hands on your mat. And just give your legs a little bit of a roll out. So we're going to do a few sort of things around the hips and sitting-y things. And then I'd like us to do this breathing, this cooling breath, which is actually really helpful in these hot conditions. So from here, what you're going to do is maybe take your legs a little bit wider and then carry on leaning onto one hand, and you're going to leave that leg long, and you're going to bend the other knee. And you're going to bring your hand onto the bent knee. And then what you're going to do is this rocking movement of letting your knee rock to the outside and to the inside, yeah? So it depends how, if it's possible for your knee to come all the way down to the ground, you obviously need to have enough distance between your legs to do that. You don't have to. It might just be a smaller movement, the knees rocking in, the knees rocking out. And obviously you play around with exactly where your foot is, that's it. So how does it feel to let this one leg move side to side in the hip joint? And your weight is very much leaning onto this side of the pelvis, yeah? So let your weight lean onto the long leg side so we can find this movement in this leg. Let's swap sides. So come to lean on the other arm and lean your weight more onto this side of the pelvis and bend the leg that was long a moment ago. And then the same thing, we've got our hand on our knee and we're tilting the knee out and in. That's it, out and in. Ah, interesting, yes, Rashmi, if you have your feet too wide apart, you might not be able to do the out. So there's a balance here, isn't there? So if the legs are wide enough that your knee can come to the floor, but then also maybe not so wide, because if my legs were very wide, I couldn't really take my knee out very much. So that's a, yeah, so all these things are sort of choices we have. But it's nice if we have got the movement to be able to take the knee down to the floor, but it's also nice to do this opening out movement here. Okay, now let's for a moment lengthen both legs out and just give them a little roll on the floor. And then we're going to bend both knees. And again, have this sort of distance, a bit of distance between the feet so that we can then let the knees tilt from side to side, yeah? And if you've got a bit of distance between your feet, this knee that's coming to the inside can then go down onto the floor, if that's possible, yeah? I mean, it doesn't matter if your feet are closer together and your foot is going onto, your knee's going onto your foot. But if it's possible for you to bring the knee to the floor, then have enough space between your feet. Now you might find in this one that you walk forwards. I think I'm walking forwards on my mat. And we're actually from here going to go all the way into pinwheels. So the next time your knees are going down, that's it. Hit your knees all the way down to one side. Can you then stay here and just organize yourself so you're in pinwheel? And do a little bit of circling. So a little bit of circling and settling. So obviously in pinwheel, we probably feel there's more weight in this leg where the knee's going out to the side. So let's just, yeah, do a little bit of circling. How does it feel? And then in a moment, we'll come into our pinwheel forward bend. So we'll turn towards this leg that's going out to the side, the knee that's going out towards the side, and we can fold our body over that leg. And it may be that your elbows come to the ground, maybe your hands come to the ground, it may be you can touch your forehead down to the ground. So what's most important is that you're able to sort of settle down and just sort of feel settled in this position. And it's fine if it's hands on the floor, you don't have to go really low in this. It's just about this feeling of taking our weight over this leg that's going out to the side. And let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Another breath or two there, just enjoying that sort of settled feeling of being in your pinwheel forward bend. And all of these movements around the hip joints can feel a bit easier because all of the ligaments and the muscles are perhaps a bit more relaxed in the hot weather. And then from here, walk your hands in towards you. You can slide this back knee on top of that knee. And then come all the way over. So we come onto pinwheel on the other side. And then just a little bit of circling and settling. How does it feel on this side? Circle. That's it. You can circle in one direction and then in the other. Good. So when you're circling, this is about just trying to settle the pelvis down and let the pelvis feel heavy and let the legs feel heavy. And just like we did on the other side, we can turn towards this knee that's going out to the side. We can fold the weight of the body over this leg. Let ourselves settle down. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Settle your weight down to the floor, through that bent leg. We'll have maybe 2 or 3 more quiet breaths there, if that feels okay. I'm just going to get up and have a little look at you. Looks very, very nice and settled. Well done. Good. Okay. And then when we come out of pinwheel on this side, we're going to slide that top leg, that back leg on top of the front leg, and then open out our legs into cobbler pose. And we'll just spend a little bit of time in cobbler pose. So we could do a little bit of this cobbler pose rocking. Yeah, from side to side. So if that's it from there, from Ashmi to, that's it, into here. Yeah, so you could hold on to your feet, you could lean back. If you want to do a little bit of rocking, you can do. And then we'll also do our sort of side lengthening movement in cobbler pose. So for this one, we're leaving the legs and pelvis quite steady. We're leaning into one arm and then reaching the other arm over. So we feel long, that's it, long through one side of the body. And just go from side to side, maybe 3 times. So one side of the body is opening out and lengthening. And the other side of the body is shortening and closing up. Good. I think once more to each side. And then lean back and lengthen your legs out and give them a little bit of a roll. Now, what I'd like you to do is just to find a comfortable sitting position, because I would like us to do a little bit of this cooling breath that I was talking about. And then we're going to do it again towards the end of class. So just come and sit however's comfortable. So I'm sitting sort of cross-legged on the cushion, but you could have your back against the wall or the bed. Just somewhere you can sit comfortably and do this breathing without having to worry about being comfortable in your sitting. So in this breathing, it involves something that I can't do, which some of you may or may not be able to do, which is rolling your tongue. So it's that one. If you can stick out your tongue and roll the edges of your tongue in, then you'll, yeah, very nice, Aditi. You'll do that. So in this breath, we suck up an inhalation across our tongue. If, like me, you can't roll your tongue, you just stick it out. And you suck the air up over the surface of the tongue. If you can roll your tongue, it's even better because you suck the air up through your tongue like a straw. So I'm going to talk you into this little sequence of breathing, and it is actually really cooling, which is why I never teach it unless the weather's like this, so it's not good in the winter. So you're going to start off just in sitting, let your shoulders drop, let a breath come in. Maybe just let a cycle of breath move through you. So let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. Let another breath come in. And then as you exhale, you're going to start to take your head up. So you're exhaling through your nose, just letting your head come up a bit. And at the end of your out breath, you're then going to either stick your tongue out or roll your tongue and suck the in-breath up the surface of your tongue. At the end of that in-breath, you then close your mouth and you roll your tongue the other way. So you try to touch the underside of your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And then as you exhale through your nose, you let your head come forwards and down. And then release your tongue from the roof of your mouth and just bring your head up to your starting point. So we're going to do that a few times, okay? So the most important thing is the sucking the air over the surface of the tongue. If rolling your tongue the other way is confusing, you don't have to do it. So let a breath come in just with your head up normally. And then as you exhale, start to tilt your head up a little bit. At the end of the out breath, you roll your tongue if you can. You stick your tongue out between your lips and you suck your in-breath up over the surface of your tongue. It might be a little bit noisy. At the end of that in-breath, you close your mouth, you roll your tongue so the underside of your tongue touches the roof of your mouth. And then as you exhale, you bring your head down, and you can even let your head drop forwards a bit. And then unroll your tongue. And as you breathe in, bring your head back to normal. So again, let a breath come in. As you exhale, let your head come up a little bit. Sticking your tongue out, rolling it if you can, sucking your in-breath up the surface of your tongue. At the end of that inhalation, close your mouth, and then exhaling, bringing your head forwards all the way. Let your head drop forwards a little bit so your chin comes towards your chest. And then breathing in, bring your head back to normal. We're going to do this twice more. So let your breath come in, exhaling, let your head come up, and then sticking your tongue out, rolling it if you can, suck the air up the surface of your tongue. And then closing your mouth, exhaling through your nostrils, letting your head come all the way forwards and down so your chin comes towards your chest. Breathing in through your nostrils, bring your head back to normal. So one last time, exhaling, let your head come up. And then end of the out breath, let your tongue come out between your lips and suck the air up along the surface of your tongue. And then closing your lips, exhaling through your nose, rolling your head forward so your chin comes towards your chest. And then as you breathe in, bringing your head back to normal. Good. So we're going to come and move a little bit more, but we'll come back to that one at the end of class, because that feeling of the air being sucked along the tongue is actually, I find, very cooling. And, you know, it's the one time in this sort of weather, it's the one time we can do it. I remember doing it in more sort of winter months when I was training as a yoga teacher, and I ended up with a sore throat. So not good in the cold. So come back onto hands and knees. And what I'd like you to do first of all is some cat movements. So see how it feels on hands and knees. To do a little bit of rounding and dipping with your spine. And just letting your breath flow through you. And from rounding and dipping in cat pose, try to find your neutral place where you're neither rounding or dipping, because from here we're going to see how it feels to come into plank pose. So if you're not towards the front of your mat, you might need to come a little bit more towards the front of your mat, so that when you've found your neutral place, you can lengthen one leg and then the other back into plank pose. And just see how it feels to have a couple of breaths in plank. And then you can come back down. You can give your hands a little bit of a shake out. So we're going to do a little sequence that involves coming back into plank pose. You'll be thrilled to hear. And from plank going into dog, forward bend, down through a squat and into face up dog. So we'll do this together. Let's maybe start again with a little, so be at the front of your mat. I'm quite well turned around. Be at the front of your mat. And again, just do a few cycles of cat. So a little bit of rounding up and dipping down to help settle yourself on hands and knees. And from rounding and dipping, can you find a place where you're not doing either? Yeah, where your spine is just neutral. Your back is sort of flat like a table. And then from there, take one leg and then the other leg back into your plank pose. So you're looking for this long straight line of plank. You should be looking down just slightly forwards of your fingertips. And from plank pose, you're then going to exhale and send your bottom up and back into dog. Now, it might feel like a very long dog, so you could walk your feet in a little bit. From this dog pose, you're going to walk your hands in towards your feet. So you're coming into a forward bend. So all the way into a forward bend, let your head go, let your arms go. And then from this forward bend, you're going to start to bend your knees. So you're coming down through a squat. Now, don't worry if your heels come up, because we're going to roll through the tops of the feet. So that's it, bend your knees. Yeah, don't sit on your bottom though, Rashmi. So bend your knees rather than sitting on your bottom, let your heels come up. Because from here, you're going to roll through the tops, through your toes, and come onto hands and knees to your best ability. And then from hands and knees, walk your hands a bit further forwards. So you're in a long hands and knees position. And then what's it like if you untuck your toes and you let your pelvis rock forwards towards an easy face-up dog? Yeah. Just see how that feels. Shoulders down away from the ears. Good. And then just let yourself rock all the way back into child pose. And just have a quiet breath or two in child. And then we're going to do that whole sequence a couple more times. So coming back onto hands and knees towards the front of your mat. So remember, the starting point was a few cycles of cat. So a few, 2 or 3 cycles of cat to help us settle down through our hands. We want to feel our shoulders are over our wrists. Good. And then from here, we're going to try and keep our pelvis where it is. Take one leg back, add the other leg in, so we're in this long straight line of plank pose. Looking down at the floor just a bit further ahead than the fingers. And then as you exhale, send your bottom up and back into dog. If that dog pose feels very long, you can walk your feet in a step. Bend your knees as much as you like in dog. And then from dog, we're going to walk the hands in towards the feet, into the forward bend again. That's it. So all of your weight in your feet. And then once more, you're going to start to bend your knees, coming down into a squat, but let your heels come up. That's it. So that you can roll forwards. You're going to roll through your toes to your best ability. Let your knees come down onto the floor. And then walk your hands forwards. So you're in a long hands and knees, untuck your toes and let your pelvis rock forwards into face-up dog. That's it. Good. And then from face-up dog, fold back into child pose for a breath or two. So we're going to do that we're going to do that one more time. So last time, and then you'll just have a couple of with a little bit more breathing after that. So last time, come onto hands and knees, again at the front of your mat. So a few cycles of cat, rounding the back towards the ceiling, dipping the spine down towards the floor, settling your shoulders over your wrists. And then when you're ready, neutral spine, taking one leg and then the other leg back into plank pose, really stretching your heels back behind you. Make sure you're not letting your head hang. You're looking straight down at the floor. And then as you exhale, send your hips up and back into dog pose. You now let your head hang and you walk your feet forwards a step if you like. You can bend your knees in dog pose. And then from dog, we're walking on into the forward bend. So hands in towards the feet, all of the weight into the feet. This is the last time we're doing this movement. So from your forward bend, you're starting to bend your knees over your feet. If you can keep your heels down in squat, you can by all means do that. But rather than sitting onto your bottom, let your heels come up so you can roll forwards onto your knees. And then walk your hands forwards into a long hands and knees position and let your pelvis rock forwards into face up dog. And then folding back into child pose. But in fact, Linda, this will suit you better, and everyone, in fact, from that child pose, you're going to lie down onto your belly, and we're just going to have a few breaths on our belly before we come up into standing. So lie down on your belly. You can have your arms wherever you like. So I tend to have my hands resting, one hand on top of the other, and my forehead or my cheek resting on the back of the hands. So lie on your belly, give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. Yes, good idea, Rashmi, have some water. And yes, just give yourself a little bit of, I say breather, but a chance to focus in on your breathing, lying on your belly. Feeling the movement of your breath within you. So if you close your eyes and focus in on feeling your breath when you're lying on your belly, notice where you feel your breathing in your body. So it might be that you feel your breath moving in the back of your body, in the back of your ribs. We have more lung capacity in the back of the body. We often think about our lungs being in the front of our chest, but actually there's more lung in the back of the ribs. Have 2 more cycles of breath here, just feeling the movement of your breath in your body. You could always bring one hand onto your lower back, so it's the back of your hand that comes onto the lower back or the bottom ribs, to feel the movement of the breath in your body. And from here, we're going to then fold back into child pose. Linda, you might just want to come onto hands and knees, because from here, you're going to fold back into child and then onto hands and knees. Yes, or kneeling, Rashmi. So you can have a couple of breaths in child pose, and then what we're going to do is come onto hands and knees. And on hands and knees, we're going to tuck the toes under and do a little bit of rocking forwards and back. So we're going to come into dog pose. No, not into dog pose. We're not going to come into dog pose. We're going to come up into standing by tucking the toes under on hands and knees, rocking the hips back over the heels, and then walking the hands in towards the knees, picking the knees up off the floor. So we're up on the balls of our feet, like this. And then from here, we're going to send the heels down and the sit bones up and come into a forward bend. So let your head go, let your arms go. Just, give your arms and your head to the floor if you can do. If you need to bend your knees and rest your elbows on your thighs, you can. And we're slowly from here going to roll up into standing, or if your lower back needs some support, walk your hands up your thighs. So roll up into standing, and we'll just see how it feels to arrive in standing. We've probably taken a little bit longer to get here than we normally do. And we're just going to see, we're going to do some standing balances, mainly in some forward bends, and just see if we can go slowly and use this as an opportunity to focus in on our breathing. So the first thing you're going to do is settle yourself in standing with your feet hip width apart and parallel. And you can do a little bit of swaying from side to side. So feeling, that's it, feeling your feet on the floor, feeling how your weight shifts. You can close your eyes if you like. This heat can make us feel a bit woozy, so we might not want to close our eyes. Weight shifting side to side. Good. And as you do this, the weight, it comes into one foot, but it also comes into the outer edge of that foot. So we really feel that contact at the outer edge of our foot on the floor. Good. And then do a little bit of shifting your weight forwards and back along the length of your feet. So let your weight shift towards your heels and let your weight shift towards your toes without toppling forwards or back. So it's possibly a smaller movement, just this sort of forwards and back movement. And then can we just have maybe a couple of cycles where we're settling down in standing? Letting the arms hang, letting the shoulders drop, feeling the breath move through us. So if you're comfortable with closing your eyes, close your eyes just for maybe 2 cycles of breath. So let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. So we're giving our body and ourselves and our breathing, everything time to settle in standing. And then opening your eyes. We're going to do a very simple balance just to get a sense of how our balancing is feeling today. So what you're going to do is maybe just come back to that swaying from side to side. You're going to choose which foot you'd like to stand on, and you're going to bring your other foot to stand on top of your standing foot. So you're not trying to do anything fancy, you're just bringing the toes like this. So I've got the ball of my foot standing on top of my other foot. And if it's helpful for your focus, you might like to bring your hands into prayer pose in front of your chest. And if at any point you feel wobbly, you can just bring the ball of your foot back onto the floor, so off the other foot. And just, yes, how is it to settle? That's it. Just standing one foot on top of the other foot. Very nice. Good. Lovely. And then try the other side. So shift your weight, come down, feel both feet on the floor for the moment, and then shift your weight onto your other foot and stand. The foot you were just standing on comes to stand now. So if you want to look really closely what I'm doing, I've got the ball of my foot standing on the front of my standing foot, and I bring my hands into prayer pose, and I just try and settle here and see how that feels. And the standing foot may wobble a little bit. Sometimes we can sort of withstand those wobbles and stay in the balance. Sometimes we might need to bring our other foot back onto the floor for a moment if the wobble gets big. Let's just a couple more breaths here. Okay, come down. A little shake out. Then just come to this one, this sort of easy swinging twist, and perhaps we do it a little bit more slowly than we might on another day. So make it very sort of lazy, languid, swinging the arms to one side. If you like to, like me, slap your hands onto your body, you can do. What's quite nice in swinging the arms is we create a little bit of air around ourselves, which at least in this part of the day might feel cool. Okay. Let that one go. Settle your feet back on the floor and come to this one where we reach up through one side of the body and then the other. So we're reaching up through one arm. As we reach through that arm, we shift our weight into that leg. So then that one side of the body becomes very long. And then from here, you could fold all the way down into a forward bend. Again, do bend your knees and rest your elbows on your thighs if your lower back needs some support. And we're just going to perhaps stay in this forward bend for a couple of breaths longer than we might do sometimes. So bend your knees as much as you like. Just how does it feel to be in the forward bend? Let your breath come in Let your breath leave you. Really feel your heels anchoring down into the ground. Let your head go as much as you can. And then letting the breath come in as you exhale. Sink into your heels, rolling up into standing, back into standing. So back in standing again. Come back to this shifting your weight towards the balls of your feet. And we're going to do this one when we come up to balance on the balls of our feet. So if you felt a bit wobbly in the last balance, we've got 2 feet on the floor now. So bringing our weight into the balls of the feet and then bringing the heels back down. We'll do this a couple more times and then we'll see how it feels to stay here. So up on the balls of the feet, let the heels come down. The next time you come up, if you feel you can stay there, then let your arms float up. And just have a few breaths here, letting the shoulders drop. Seeing if you can feel steady on the balls of both feet. Be aware of your body all the way down from your toes, your heels, all the way up to your fingertips. Very nice, come down, have a little shake out. We're going to then do this one with that balance. So the one where this Hakini Mudra. So first of all over our heads, and then we bring that down in front of our chest. So the pads of the thumbs and fingers touching. Okay, while you're balancing up on the balls of your feet. So we'll come up, we'll just let the arms hang by our sides. We'll bring our weight forwards onto the balls of our feet. We'll come up into this little balance. And then when you're steady, if you're steady, bring your arms up. And then can you touch the pads of your fingers and thumbs together over your head? Have a breath or 2 there. And then still balancing on the balls of your feet, bring your hands down in front of your chest. I like to let my elbows go out to the side here. And a few breaths here. Can we balance with this mudra, this hand position in front of our chest? Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave us. Good. Whenever you need to come down, let your heels come down. And once more, go all the way down into your forward bend. So really sinking into your heels, and that's again staying there for a couple of extra breaths. Bend, if you need to rest your elbows on your thighs, you can do. Otherwise, staying in this forward bend, heels sinking into the ground. Your knees can be a little bit bent or a lot bent. Letting your head and arms and shoulders all give their weight down to the ground. One more cycle of breath in this forward bend. And then sinking into the heels, rolling back up into standing. And yes, coming on to, I don't know, Otto. Otto has just come to demonstrate his lovely dog pose. Thank you, Otto. Thank you, Otto. Move down, please. So yes, he's done very little. I took him out for a very short walk before class because it's about the only time dogs can go out at the moment. So back in Tadasana, feet hip width apart and parallel. You're going to start to reach up through. Let's reach up through the right arm. It doesn't really matter, actually. Reach up through one arm and shifting your weight onto that foot. And then from here, we're going to be letting the other foot come off the floor and catching the top of the foot or the trouser leg. And so we're coming into this position here. So yes, Nigel, without you, we're doing without a trouser leg today. Could be. Yes, good, well done. And let your hand come down onto your breastbone then. have a few quiet breaths here. And so come down in your own time and have a little shake out. Now, Nigel, if it's difficult to catch your foot, you could do this so that foot comes to rest up on the sofa behind you, if that's better, because you haven't got a trouser leg to catch today. So that's always an option. So just be near a sofa. So let's try the other side. Let's reach up through the other arm. Shift the weight into the other foot. So the same foot as the arm. And then we sneak that other foot off the floor. Can we catch the foot or the ankle or the trouser leg if there is one to catch, or yes, or rest the foot onto the sofa. And then this top hand comes down onto the breastbone. We'll just have a quiet breath or two here, trying to let our knee drop down towards the floor. And yes, whenever you've had enough, come down, because we're going to try a slightly different variation on this balance. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn to face, which I think most of you are anyway, facing the long edge, the short edge of my mat, the length of my mat. And you're going to step. So if you stood on your right foot first in that last balance, you're going to step your right foot forwards and bend your right knee. Actually, no, sorry, we're not. Sorry. Come back to feet side by side. What we're going to do is maybe watch me for a moment. Is we're going to step the right foot forwards, and as we do so, we're then going to catch the left foot, bring our hand to our breastbone, and then reach our arm forwards and maybe our foot back. So it's a little bit more flowing when we do this. So the stepping forwards is part of it. So I've come a little bit more towards the back of my mat, which you may or may not need to. So the first thing you're going to do from here is step forwards with your right foot, and then let all of the weight come into your right foot as you catch the top of your left foot. And then bring your hand onto your breastbone, and then reach forwards with your arm and backwards with your foot. And just have a breath or two here. Good, very nice. And just see if you can connect with your breathing in a sort of quiet way in the balance. And if it starts to feel a bit busy or a bit hot and effortful, then you come back down, you have a little shake out. So we're thinking more about the movement into this balance, and we'll try the other side. So again, come back towards the end of your mat, feet hip width apart and parallel. You're going to step forwards with the left foot, and as you step onto that foot, let the right foot come off the floor, catch the top of that foot, bring your hand onto your breastbone, and then reach forwards with your hand and reach your foot backwards away from your bottom, and have a couple of breaths here. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then come down and have a little bit of a shake out. We're going to we've got one more balance to do in a moment, but we're going to come into a forward bend first, but with our feet in this position. So this time, come back to stepping the right foot forwards, but keeping both feet on the ground. So I was a step ahead of myself. What you're going to do is, with your front knee bent and your back leg straight, is come forwards. You can rest your arms onto that bent front leg thigh. And you can also fold further forward so your chest comes closer to your thigh and your arms and your hands come down towards the floor. So just see what feels more helpful for you. So you can either stay resting on that bent front leg, or you can release your head and your arms down to the floor. And I'll just have a little bit of a look at you. Good. Very nice. Lovely. Now this may feel quite a strong stretch through that back leg. So if you can have another couple of breaths there, do, if you've had enough, sink into both feet and come back up into standing. Good. And then step your front foot back, so you're back with your feet side to side, hip width apart and parallel. So it's quite important in this to feel stable, is to make sure you've got your hip width side to side distance. I probably say that every time, so I'm sure you know that. And so again, the same thing, the front knee's bent. We're starting to fold forwards over that bent front leg. We can stay there resting with our elbow, our left elbow on that thigh. Or you could try folding a little bit further forward so your chest comes closer to your thigh and you're releasing your head and your arms down towards the floor. Good. Very nice. So if you're comfortable there, have another breath or two, but whenever you want to come up, see if you can come up by just sinking into your feet. Yes, you could use your hands on your front leg, Aditi, that's absolutely fine. Good. Have a little shake out. So we've got one last standing balance. When I did this last night, then I got very, very hot. So after this, we will lie down before we finish with a little bit of sitting. So we're going to be coming back to stepping the right foot forwards, bending the right knee. Maybe watch from him. This will be familiar. So we're going to, from here, we're going to bring our hands into prayer pose, bend both knees, and then start to reach back. So we're letting both knees straighten but not lock. Maybe tilting forwards, but we don't have to go that far forward. So our starting point is here. Front knee bent, hands in prayer pose at the breastbone, and then shifting the weight forwards onto that bent front leg. And actually lengthening out the back leg. Maybe the front knee straightens. Maybe we can have a couple of breaths here. Good. Very nice. Yes, coming up, having a bit of a very lovely shake out. Back with both feet side by side in Tadasana again. Second side, stepping the left foot forwards. So this is starting point, and it's really up to you at this point. When you shift your weight into your front foot, you can either bend your back knee or you could shift your weight into your front foot and keep your back leg long. So whichever you prefer. And that standing knee does straighten but not lock. Very nice, everyone. Beautiful. And so as you exhale, just really try to feel your breathing out through your back heel, perhaps through the crown of your head. Wonderful balancing, everyone. Very, very nice. Good. And then, yes, coming down, having a little shake out, having a little drink of water, and then lie down onto your back. So we're going to move a bit. You're just going to lie down and have a little breather to start with. Lie down, have a little breather on your back. We're going to move a bit on our back, and we're going to finish with a little bit of the sitting and the cooling breath again. So, yes, once you've had a little drink, settle down. And just, yes, how does it feel to lie down? I can see a bit of a fan going on there, Aditi and Nigel, which is a very good idea. So lying down, you can enjoy that cool air. And just on your back. Yes, any little movements you want to do like that, Sheila, it's a good idea. Then if we just have a couple of more, maybe 3 more cycles of quiet breath, and then I'll talk you through a little bit of movement, a few movements on our backs. So on your back, you could, like we did at the very beginning of class, you could let your head roll to the right and to the left. So easing out the back of your neck. And from rolling your head to the right and to the left, as well as easing the back of your neck, you're seeing if you can find this sort of comfortable place to settle the head down. Again, if the back of the neck feels a bit tight, you might want to pause with your head in the center, take your hands around the back of your head, pick up your head, lengthen out the back of your neck, place your head back onto the floor. And if your legs are long, you're going to, in a moment, bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. Take a moment to feel the contact of your footprints on the floor, the back of your pelvis on the floor, and then starting to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. Very nice. That's it. So you can make the weight, so the weight rocks, doesn't it? As the knees tilt, the weight rocks into the outer edge of one foot and the inner edge of the other foot. Good. So a couple more times, side to side with the knees. And then settle in the center. And come to a little bit of tilting your pelvis, again, like we did at the beginning of class. So tilting your pelvis towards your head and away from your head. So we are changing that contact of the back of the lower back on the floor. So the lower back arches away from the floor as we tilt the pelvis away from our head. And the lower back flattens out and makes more contact with the floor as we tilt the pelvis the other way. And so, as I said earlier, this is very therapeutic for the lower back if we're experiencing any tension there. And it also leads us on into bridge pose, so that tilting the lower back, flattening out, tilting the pelvis, so the tailbone comes out off the floor, flattening out the lower back, can take us on into bridge pose. And so in your own time, rolling up and down 2 or 3 times and just sort of seeing how it feels to come back to, again, where we started just over an hour ago. And when you've done a couple of times of rolling up and down through bridge pose, we're going to stay with bridge pose, but I want you to try have a little play around with the variation where when we roll down, sort of we go off to the side, we go off to the right or to the left of the spine. And it's really up to you. You can, at the moment, I quite like going from side to side. So I'll roll down through one side. I might roll back up through that side and then down through the other side. Or you could, a couple of times, see how it feels to roll down through the left side, back up through the center, down through the left side. So just really having a little play around with what's it like in our bridge pose if rather than placing the spine back onto the floor, we go off to the left or the right of the spine. Place the side of the body back down to the floor. And it's always interesting to notice, where can we place the side? You know, if we go off to the left of our spine, are there places we can place on the floor? Are there places that are harder to touch down onto the floor? And when you've done a little bit of, yes, a little bit of that sort of, how does it feel to go off to the right or to the left of your spine? Then just finish up with perhaps a couple of very sort of simple bridge poses where you roll up and down through your spine, through the center. Keep it very sort of quiet and easy. And when you've done those couple of bridge poses, then you can fold your knees into your chest. And you could just lie quietly, holding around the top of your knees, or you could do a little bit of rocking from side to side. And then one last little thing on our back, bringing our feet back onto the floor and taking your feet as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. And then coming back to tilting your knees from side to side, but now with your feet wider. That's nice. Good. Yes, so Nigel and Aditi coordinating. Oh, have you got space? Maybe not. No, I think you might have to coordinate. Good. Synchronize, that's the word I'm looking at. Good. So you're going to tilt your knees from side to side. And then if you would like to stay for a few breaths with your knees going down towards one side, that might be quite nice, especially in this hot weather. If you have a cushion to hand and you feel that you need to slide your cushion under one knee, you can do. That's it, Linda. Sheila, rather. Good. Good. And then if you're staying with your knees tilted to one side, you can roll your head in the opposite direction to your knees. So you feel that shoulder stays settled on the ground. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then just do the same thing on the other side. So that's it, let your knees come over to the other side. Again, if there's a cushion to hand. That's it, good. And just have a few quiet breaths on this second side, giving the weight of the knees down to the floor, letting the head roll in the opposite direction. Feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. And whenever you're ready, you can come back to the center and just maybe have a breath or two there. Do whatever you like for a moment. You could lengthen your legs out or take your legs up to the ceiling. So what we're going to do now is roll over and come into sitting. We'll just revisit our cooling breath, our sitali breathing we were doing earlier, and then we'll lie down. So I think sometimes if we haven't done something before, we come back to it and maybe it feels a little bit easier. I go to the angle, then you can see my head back. So make sure your pelvis is right up against the wall, Linda. Yes, well done. So just in sitting, just, yeah, give yourself a little bit of time to settle in sitting, maybe a little bit of rocking, swaying, and let your breathing settle. So perhaps once you're settled in sitting, just have a couple of quiet breaths. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. And then, so remember, our starting point is we just, with our head just in neutral, we let a breath come in. And then as we exhale, we let our head come up a little bit. At the end of that exhalation, we stick out the tongue, we roll it if we can, and we suck up the air over the surface of our tongue. And then you close your lips. If you want to touch the underside of your tongue to the roof of your mouth, you can. And as you exhale, you bring your head forwards and then down. So let your chin fall towards your chest. And then just let your tongue relax and bring your head back to neutral as you breathe in. And then start to exhale, let your head come up. At the end of that out breath, you stick out your tongue between your lips. Roll it if you can. You suck up the air over your tongue. And you close your lips. You can touch the underside of your tongue to the roof of your mouth. You exhale through your nostrils. You let your head come forwards and then down. Then relax your tongue. And as you breathe in, bring your head up. Right. We're going to do that 3 more times. So exhaling, let the head come up. Sticking out the tongue, sucking up the air. And then closing the lips, exhaling through the nose, let the head fall forwards. Breathing in, let the head come up to neutral. And then again, exhaling, let the head come up. Exhaling through the nostrils, sucking or drinking the air up the surface of your tongue. And then closing the mouth, exhaling through the nostrils, let the head come forwards and down. Breathing in through the nostrils, the head comes upright. Last time, exhaling, letting the head come up, exhaling through the nostrils, opening the mouth, sucking the air up over your tongue. Closing the mouth, exhaling through the nostrils, letting the head fall all the way forwards. Then breathing in, bringing your head back to neutral. And then just let yourself settle for a couple of cycles of breath. Feeling the movement of your breath through your body. Letting your shoulders drop. Hands resting on your thighs. Let the elbows soften. Let the elbows bend a little bit if they're straight. And then we'll come into lying down. So just lie down however you're going to be most comfortable. If you have a sofa or a bed, you want to put your lower legs up on the sofa or bed, you can do. If you've got a cushion you want to put under behind your knees, you can. Oh yes, good thinking, Linda. Very nice. So wherever you are, just letting yourself settle down in lying as comfortable as possible. And I find in this hot weather that I don't really want to rest my hands on the front of my body because that makes me feel hotter, but if you want to, you can do. Let the arms rest by your sides. If you feel that you would like to roll your head a little bit, Find a comfortable place to settle your head down, you can do. That's it. Again, if you feel you need to pick up your head in your hands, you can do little things that help you to settle. Might be 2 or 3 big sighing breaths, giving the weight of your body down to the ground. And then to start with, gather your attention into your breathing. So just noticing where you feel your breath in your body. Where does the breathing feel most clear? And seeing how it feels to let your attention settle with the sensation of the breath wherever you feel it in your body. And then from focusing on your breathing, let your attention expand outward, sensing the contact of your body with the floor. So maybe feeling the back of your head on the floor, back of your shoulders, the back of your rib cage, some of your vertebrae, the back of your pelvis, and then depending how you're lying, some parts of your legs and heels on the ground or a surface. Also feeling perhaps the warmth of the air on your skin, noticing sounds, presence of other people. So whatever is in your field of awareness, both outside of you and within you. In a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times so you can let those sounds come into the field of your awareness. And reach the end of the 3rd sound, then you can start to move if you like. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining on such an incredibly warm day. I'm going to unmute you in case, actually, let me just stop the recording and then